river to the sea. We stand with your emancipation. Your people will be free.
No, it's not awful that Jewish people, you know, the Nazis, they were different people. They still gave huge amounts of unstinting support to Israel because they thought that by giving support to Israel, they would be on the winning side. They would be on the side of the United States. And so they gave huge amounts of reparations to this newly colonial state, while at the same time not accepting any responsibility for what they'd done. What changed, of course, was the generation of 1968, where you did have young German people feeling not just guilt, but feeling revulsion about what their elders had done, feeling revulsion about the horrors of the Holocaust. And how that revulsion has since been used and turned against new victims is truly, truly disgusting. And one of the victims that have been turned against is, of course, those in Germany who are not white. Because in some ways you can say this is the other lesson that Germany learned from the Holocaust. They didn't learn that genocide was bad. They didn't learn that the genocide of the Herero or the Nama people they committed was bad. They didn't learn that the genocide of the Armenians, which they were complicit in, was bad. Nor did they even learn that the genocide of the Roma, which they were committing at the same time as they were doing the genocide of Jewish people, was bad. It was only in the 1980s that they even acknowledged they were committing this genocide. So what they learned was because Jews are decoded as being white. Now, being white is not, of course, simply about the colour of our skin. It's about what position we take in a hierarchy of racial privilege. And as we know well, white people are able, as we saw it in Iraq, white people are able to kill brown people in the thousands and the tens of thousands with impunity, and still claim to be on the side of civilization, and still be able to be accepted in the halls of white Western powers, still be able to be accepted in the halls of the Eurovision, in the halls of all the sporting associations, because, you know, Israel has now been coded as being white. And so what we have seen since, especially the new millennium, we have seen the idea of Germany being guilty for the Holocaust being used firstly against Muslims in Germany, being used the way that Holocaust education has been used as a way of saying brown people in Germany are implicitly anti-Semitic. We are seeing Holocaust education not being used against racism, but as a tool of racism, as a tool of repression of Germans that now the German state see as a suspect population, which is the Muslim population of Germany. And we've seen it also being used as a tool for foreign affairs. Because one of the things we've heard from German people time and again is, well, you know, for Germans it's complicated. You know, it's complicated to oppose Israel. In fact, you know, the Holocaust allows them to overcome the complications. Not a single Western government, including our government, wishes to be in any way critical of Israel. It is only the pressure of the people that have forced governments to do anything around Israel. Our governments would prefer to have things business as normal, maintaining the same ties as we always maintained. And it's only through the pressure of our people that, for instance, our government is supporting the genocide case against of South Africa. It's only through the pressure of our people that the government is doing even symbolic things as recognising the state of Palestine. But the German government can use the Holocaust to say, no, we're not able to do anything. To say, no, we have to have business as usual. To say, yes, we wouldn't spend 350 million on supplying arms to Israel, which is what they have done this year. And so they can use the Holocaust as a tool against the wishes of the German people. Because we must distinguish the German government and the German people. And German people have been from the get-go. The German people have been from the get-go wanting a ceasefire, wanting an end to the violence, and wanting their state to stop this complicity in genocide. We must let them use the Holocaust again to allow the German government to be complicit in yet another genocide. And so we say to Germany, and we say to the German government, no more genocide. Nie wieder genocide. Thank you very much.
Would you be available for 25 euros?
Right, like that. Can you hear me now? Yeah, I was going to say, don't believe in German guilt. Germans acknowledge that they were guilty, but that's not the same thing as having a sense of guilt. And in fact, this acknowledgement of German guilt serves supposedly as a stepping stone to German power. I've got a couple of quotations here that I wrote down. One of them is from the very first German Chancellor after World War II, Konrad Adenauer. And Adenauer said, Germany's crimes against Jews have to be expiated or repaired. How you repair 6 million murders, I don't know. Or repaired, if we are to regain our international standing. Because, now wait for this, the power of the Jews even today, especially in America, should not be underestimated. So there you have that combination, the combination of saying, right, we must make up supposedly for the fact that we killed all these Jews, coupled with an anti-Semitic cliche about the power of the Jews. And that combination, which is known as philo-Semitism, a philo-Semite is an anti-Semite who loves Jews, or more precisely an anti-Semite who loves Zionist Jews. That has characterized and still characterizes the German position on Israel-Palestine from the start. Adenauer's second in command was a man called Hans Globke, right up to the end of Adenauer's reign, and right up to 1963, I think it was. Globke had actually been instrumental in formulating the Nuremberg Laws. And as we probably know, the Nuremberg Laws were the basis of the genocide of Jews. Here you have this man who personally had a major responsibility for the murder of 6 million Jews, and he was the second in command in the German government right up until 1963. Not alone that, but he, quotation marks, atoned for his crimes by making sure that Israel got a load of money to enable it to set up its illicit nuclear program. And because of that, Hans Globke was able to retire instead of ending up his life in jail. Again, this is quite extraordinary. And I was thinking of that as I watched the video that some of you will have seen yesterday of a young Jewish man in Berlin holding a banner saying, Jews against genocide, and a bunch of smirking policemen closing in on him, seizing the banner, pushing him out of the way. German police, in effect, attacking this young Jew who is expressing his opposition to genocide. That is an extraordinary position, I have to say. An extraordinary thing to see happening in Germany. And you also have to remember that a very large percentage of German policemen, and probably women, are members of or supporters of the AfD, the furthest to the right of all the German political parties, a neo-Nazi political party, but one that really loves Israel. Because Israel, of course, is very popular with fascists, because Israel is their ideal state, a racist state that exists outside of any kind of norms of international law, has complete impunity, and is totally militarized. Adenauer is saying that, supporting the Jews is our passport to power. Let's come forward a few years. 2022, a man called Lars Klingbeil, lovely name, Lars Klingbeil, the co-leader of the Social Democrats, so-called Social Democrats who are in the German government, made a speech in which he said, after almost 80 years of restraint, i.e. since the Nazi period, Germany now has a new role in the international system. It needs to hold itself to the standard of a leading power while seeing its army as a legitimate political tool. A legitimate political tool. Okay, right, this is it. 2 months later, the foreign minister, Annalena Baerbock, who is from the so-called Greens, and the Greens are among the most warlike parties in Germany. They seem to love weapons, even though war is probably rather ecocidal. She made a speech in New York in which she said, "We have to seize the transatlantic moment to engage in a partnership in leadership. Not just we as Germans and Americans, but we as Europeans and Americans. And it's for my country within the European Union how does she finish off? It's for my country to lead the way. Germany has to lead the way to leadership. Leadership of what? Presumably leadership of the West, which has leadership of the world." So this is where, according to these people, Germany has ended up, and it has supposedly ended up there in part by its unconditional support for the crimes of the State of Israel, which supposedly, by identifying it in an anti-Semitic way with all Jews, whether they like it or not, stands as a kind of doing penance. But in fact, we know it's the Palestinians who are doing penance for German crimes. It's the Palestinians who are now the scapegoats, and in the process, Germany, as we're seeing in Berlin just now, is also silencing Jews. Something less than 1% of the population of Germany is Jewish, but some 30% of the cancellations, the bans, the prohibitions that have taken place lately of cultural figures, of lecturers, of intellectuals, of artists, have been Jewish. Think of that. Think of that. This is Germany, and they have the illusion that this state of affairs somehow or other constitutes coming to terms with the past, Vergangenheitsbewältigung, which I prefer to translate as managing the past. There's one final term I want to mention before I shut my gob, and that is reason of state. Reason of state. The Germans are always going on about reason of state. A man called Kevin Kühnert, the Secretary General of the SPD, said, "German reason of state is a promise that has to be kept without paying attention to fluctuations of public opinion." That is in response to another of the many opinion polls showing that whatever the German state thinks, an average of 70% of the German people don't think it. They are against, as David Landry said, they are against the militarization, the remilitarization of Germany, and they are against the unconditional support for the State of Israel. So this so-called reason of state, these people in power are really disgusted that the people don't go along with them. And I can't help thinking of Bertolt Brecht's famous lines that go like, would it not be simpler if the government simply dissolved the people and elected another? So reason of state, which is synonymous with a state of unreason. Germany, I would say, forget your reason of state and return to reason. Forget your international standing, which you've already lost in the eyes of the world. End your arming of Israel, end your unconditional support for Israel's crimes, and free Palestine!
Free Palestine!
This is good crack now. Wir klagen an! 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 Wir klagen an!
Wir klagen an!
Thanks, Raymond and David. It's really important to get both of their perspectives on this. And next up we have Iman. Iman is a Palestinian academic based in Ireland, and the exact type of person who, if she was speaking in Berlin yesterday, she would have been silenced. So today here, it's important that we also platform the people that wouldn't be silenced if they're speaking elsewhere. So.
Hi everyone, thanks very much. So I feel like I'm going to be preaching to the choir here because a lot of the same themes will be coming up, but sure, I'll read it anyway. So the German state has peddled a myth that they are the model for liberal democracy and European values. a myth that they are the model for how nations should atone for their inhumane histories. But we see through these myths. We see through them in the way that Germany silences Palestinians and pro-Palestinian activists. The way that they silence Palestinians and pro-Palestinian activists. They prevented Palestinian British professor Hassan Abu Sitta from entering the country to speak at the Palestinian Congress about his time in Gaza, citing that it was for public safety and public order. Ironically, at that very conference, the only threat to public safety was the 930 officers dispatched to shut down a conference of only 250 people. This disproportionate use of violence is something that us Palestinians are very familiar with. Freedom of speech, except for Palestine, is not freedom of speech. It is another undemocratic attempt by the German government to conceal their own culpability in this genocide and to pretend to atone for their own genocide of Jewish people and other minority groups throughout the world. Are these the so-called European values that Germany espouses? In Germany's militant defense of Israel's genocide, we see a nation that has not only failed to grapple with its own genocidal past, but one that continues to perpetuate the cycle of violence due to this failure. Since the Nakba, Palestinians have had to bear the consequences of Germany's horrific actions. Forcibly displacing Palestinians does not atone for their actions. The uncritical support of Israel does not atone for the Holocaust. Building museums and raising awareness does not atone for the genocide. These acts are meaningless when a state supports a genocidal Zionist regime that fundamentally makes Jewish people more unsafe both inside and outside of Germany. The people of Germany should be concerned by the behavior of their state because silencing groups experiencing genocide and persecution is a historical characteristic of the state that is still very much alive today. Furthermore, the silencing and erasure of Palestinian and pro-Palestinian voices in Germany makes Germany complicit with genocide. This is not how liberal democracies should behave. These are not the values that Europeans espouse that overwhelmingly support Palestine. We see through the German state's actions, and today we stand here in solidarity with our German brothers and sisters who are still trying to fight for Palestine despite their government's attempts to silence them. From the river to the sea.
Thanks very much, man. Next we have Sandra Klein, activist with IPSC from Germany, who's going to speak to us now today.
Hi, can you guys hear me? Can you hear me now? Yes. Lovely. So, normally at these things I don't think I should speak because I'm German. And I don't like it that I'm German, but I can't help it. So here we are. I had a speech written. It started with talking about how when I was a kid, I stood in Dachau, former concentration camp, a memorial, and they showed us large screen footage of bodies that look just like the bodies in Gaza look now, except they're already dead. And I wept. And that stuff never healed in me. And I withdrew from politics. I'm not political. I don't know everything the government has done ever since then, since 1944. I don't know because I can't watch it. What I know is what it's like being German right now. I've been talking to my friends in Germany recently who don't know much of what I know because it's not in the news. Yesterday, I was in Germany and I saw in the IPSC chat what is happening. There was nothing on the normal German news, nothing at all. They don't know much freedom of speech has been taken. They don't know outside of Berlin what is happening. And this is what is shocking me so much, that even though TikTok and everything exists, they still don't know. Never again was what they said to me then. That's why we're watching this. This is why we're standing here. And never again means nothing, because people don't know. And those that know, they say, what can you do? The world is going to the dogs, everything's going downhill, and what can we do against the government and lobbyists? And they don't speak up. Now in Ireland, the government is doing the talk and not doing any walk. But you guys, and across the country and across the world, people are walking, and not just talking and thinking, but actually walking out and saying, I will not stand here. So why I thought today I would speak is because I wanted to thank all of you and encourage you to keep going and give people hope. And secondly, to the German people that I know, not the government, because I've given up on them always, that the people do something, take action, because you cannot be made by the Tagesschau and by the Bundesregierung to not be complicit with something that you don't even know for sure. So, get up and do something every day. Free Palestine! Freiheit für Palästina!
Freiheit Palästina!
Thank you, Sandra. Next, we have Richard Boyd Barrett, TD, from People for Profit. Richard was supposed to speak at the
Thanks very much, and I just want to commend all of you and the Irish Palestine Solidarity Campaign and Jews Against Genocide for organising this extremely important protest. For people in Ireland, it might come as a relief if Richard Boyd Barrett is shut up and doesn't get a chance to speak at an event, but it was really quite outrageous what happened in Berlin yesterday. And the idea that MPs, members of parliament from across Europe, from Ireland, from the Netherlands, that the UN Special Rapporteur Francesca Albanese, the Special Rapporteur for Palestine, many Jewish activists who are opponents of what Israel does and who have been speaking out against the genocide that Israel has been perpetrating against the people of Gaza, were banned with the use of overwhelming police intimidation and force, cutting off the electricity and shutting down a discussion which was trying to highlight a genocide, the worst crime that can be committed, the worst crime imaginable. And people were there to speak out against genocide and in favour of international law and rights. And that the German police were sent in, and I know people have probably seen the videos, arresting Jewish people, arresting leading figures in the Jews for Palestine group in Berlin in the name, supposedly, of opposing a conference that they charged as being anti-Semitic. I mean, the hypocrisy of it is stunning, but it is also extremely alarming that in the name of supposedly defending democracy, supposedly standing up for human rights, what they're actually doing is trying to cover up their complicity with genocide and attacking free speech and the right to free expression and freedom of assembly in Europe. So this has very serious implications. And I want to quote briefly one of these speakers people will know, the Palestinian doctor, Dr. Ghassan Abu Sitta, who was held at the airport in Berlin for 3.5 hours, interrogated and then deported back to Britain. This is a man who is a Palestinian British surgeon who is in Gaza tending to the wounded and the maimed, who'd come back and expose the horrors of what Israel is doing to the people of Gaza and the complicity of countries like Germany, like the United States, like Britain, who have armed, supported and given political cover to this massacre and this genocide. And he puts it very, very well in what he said following his deportation. He said, as Germany is defending itself against the Nicaraguan charges that it is an accomplice to the genocidal war as described by the International Court of Justice, this is exactly what accomplices to a crime do. They bury the evidence and they silence or harass or intimidate the witnesses. And that is what's going on. That is what's going on. It is absolutely horrendous. And it shows not just do we have to stand against the awful crimes that have been perpetrated against the people of Gaza and Palestine. But when we have said, as we've said again and again at demonstrations, this isn't just a fight for the Palestinian people. This is a fight for humanity. This is a fight for what sort of society we are all going to live in. Because if they can get away with this in Palestine, they will do it to us. And we see the first alarming signs of it when you see riot police sent in to shut down a conference because it speaks out against genocide and exposes Germany's complicity with that genocide. So the stakes are very, very high. And I just want to put it very, because as the Irish government, people will see at the Ardèche, there's a lot of lip service now being paid to the Palestinian cause. And of course, that is because of the pressure of masses of people in the streets. Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael have been dragged, kicking and screaming, to acknowledge the horror that is being inflicted on the people of Palestine. What they're saying when they talk about Palestinian state recognition has been forced on them because of people power. Because in reality, they have done everything to avoid imposing meaningful sanctions on the state of Israel and to expose those who are arming that genocide. And we have to be clear, Israel could not continue with its crimes against the Palestinian people were it not for the arming, the supporting given to it by Germany, by Britain, by the European Union and by the United States. They are as guilty as the direct perpetrators in the genocide that is being inflicted. So, we got to keep up the fight. We have to demand meaningful sanctions. We have to demand our government expose these people for their complicity in genocide, and we have to end the excuses we're hearing for the government that it can't do this, that or the other because of EU rules or whatever it is. The Irish government are signatories to the Genocide Convention. That means they are legally obliged to do everything and all in their power to prevent the commission of genocide. They have the legal right and they have the moral responsibility to impose sanctions, and we must demand they do it now. Would somebody just to say, I have to talk on Al Jazeera about what happened in Berlin yesterday, and they were very glad to know there was a protest happening here. So we should do a few more chants if we could get them filmed, because they want footage for Al Jazeera for the protest of us doing some loud chanting in German and in English. It would be brilliant. So hopefully we could do that before we finish up. Well done to all of you, and keep up the fight.
Just for a couple of announcements, there is a protest at Shannon Airport tomorrow for anyone who can make it out. There's a big contingent coming from Dublin, so anyone who can join, that'd be great. On Monday morning, outside of the AXA offices, there's another in a series of BDS protests against AXA. That's at 9:30 at Wolftown Square in front of the AXA offices. Wednesday is Palestinian Prisoners Day. There's a vigil outside the GPO at 5:30, and afterwards there's a talk by the Palestinian Prisoner Rights Association Adamir at 7:15. And next Saturday at 1 p.m. at the Garden of Remembrance to gather for the next national demo. We've had huge numbers of those over the last few weeks, and it's really important that we keep up those numbers. So Anya has a transcript of the speech given by Dr. Abu Sita at the steps of the London Embassy yesterday, and she's going to read a piece of that speech.
Is that working yet? So this was after Dr. Ghassan was deported from Germany. He went to the embassy in London and gave this speech from the steps. For anyone who doesn't know, Dr. Ghassan, on the 7th of October, he booked his flights to go and volunteer in Gaza to put children back together again. World-renowned surgeon. Anyway, this is what he had to say. So today we saw how accomplices in crime behave. Accomplices in a crime try to hide the evidence and silence the witnesses. And as if wanting to admit the Nicaraguan charges in front of the ICJ that they are accomplices to the crime of genocide against the Palestinian people, the German state decided to behave like an accomplice and tried to silence the voices of the witnesses to the crimes. They are no different to any common gang. One does the killing, the other does the burial, and the other one gets rid of the evidence. But today they have not counted on the fact that the world has changed and the international response to this crime of trying to silence Palestinian voices has backfired on them. What could have just been a local event of a conference on Palestine has now become the focus of the world's attention. They will not silence us. They will never silence us. What they are trying to do is get us to unsee what we have seen. Those of us who were in Gaza, in the hospitals, Germany and its other accomplices in this genocidal war want us to unsee the children that they have killed. They want us to unsee the bodies of these children that were left permanently damaged by the weapons that they continue to supply to Israel. And so we will always say their names. Those children, I've lost my... Those children who have been killed, those children who have been maimed, they will never stop me from reminding the world about Anas, my 13-year-old boy, burnt 60% of his body and died after 3 surgeries. Darren, whose foot we had to remove. Ramadan, whose crushed hand we operated on, and thousands and thousands and thousands of more children that they and the weapons that they supplied to the Israeli genocidal machine are complicit in injuring. Thank you very much for coming out. They will not defeat us. They are losing. This is why they're behaving the way that they are behaving. And the world has changed. We have paid a very high price to change this world, but we can see this genocidal iceberg, the tip of which is Israel, and the rest of which is this axis of genocide of which Germany is a part. We see it faltering, we see it cracking, and we see it falling apart. Our people own tomorrow. Our children own tomorrow. And what happens to us today will change the face of the earth. Thank you so much.
Fight for Palestine.
I hide for Palestine.
I hide for Palestine.
I hide for Palestine.
I hide for Palestine.
Ceasefire now. Ceasefire now. Ceasefire now. Ceasefire now. Ceasefire now. Ceasefire now. Ceasefire now.
Ceasefire now. Ceasefire now.
Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now!
Occupation no more.
5, 6, 7, 8.
Israel is a terror state.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Occupation no more.
5, 6, 7. Stay off the street, lads. 5, 6, 7, 8.
Israel is a terror state.
1,
klagen an. Wir klagen an. Wir klagen an. Wir klagen an. Wir klagen an.
Freiheit für Palästina!
Freiheit für Palästina.
Freiheit für Palästina!
Freiheit für Palästina.
Freiheit für Gaza!
Freiheit.
Freiheit für Gaza!
Freiheit für Gaza.
Wir klagen an!
Wir klagen an. Wir klagen an. Wir klagen an. Wir klagen an. Wir klagen an.
From the river to the sea!
Palestine will be free.
From the river to the sea!
Palestine will be free.
From the river to the sea!
Palestine will be free.
From the river to the sea!
Palestine will be free.
Ceasefire!
Deutschland, you can hide.
Genocide.
We judge you with genocide.
We charge you with genocide.